this video, I'd like to share with you the immense difficulties I've been having with seed starting this year. There have been a few little triumphs, but mostly there have been a lot of failures, a lot of frustration, a lot of wasted seed and soil, and I'm not sure what exactly I'm doing wrong and why this is happening. I also feel like I'm really far behind in terms of having plants ready to get out into the garden when the weather warms up enough for them to be there. So I just want to show you my methods, what I'm doing. Maybe you can tell me what I'm doing wrong. Maybe you have some other suggestions or can tell me tips and tricks that have worked for you. So let's get into it. This is my seed collection. I don't do anything special in terms of storage. This is just a recycled Amazon box. I generally just store it in a cupboard so that it's not subject to any really big shifts in moisture or temperature changes. I've collected these seeds from a variety of different sources. All of the ones in the brown envelopes are ones that I have obtained by collecting myself or from seed swaps or from people giving them to me. I do try and put good notes on each of them so that I know how to handle the seed. I don't want to throw any companies under the bus here because I'm pretty sure most of this is user error, but I have noticed with a particular brand of seed that I can buy at my local garden center, I've had very, very poor germination and very poor seedling survival. Maybe you've had a similar experience. I'm not sure what the issue is, but I'm not ruling out anything. This year was the first year I used a seed starting mix, and this is the one I got. I did so because I had such a hard time last year and I thought this might help, but actually my germination has been worse this year. I also used this compost, Purely Compost by G&B Organics, and then just a G&B raised bed and potting mix, and these are for transplants, planting out seedlings and that sort of thing. They do seem to really like this soil. Because of the poor germination I've had in the seed starting mix, I kind of feel like it's been a waste of time. Last year, I just sowed into compost and had pretty good germination, and I didn't have the extra step of transplanting the seedlings into a nutrient-rich soil. They already had everything they needed. Because I am just desperate to get my peppers started, and it's getting pretty late in the game, I decided to try a little experiment. I hadn't seen anybody do this before I tried this. I have, however, seen someone do this since. Basically what I've done here is put all of my seeds in wet paper towel in plastic bags and place them directly on the heat mat with a dome over the top. Most of these are pepper seeds because those are the ones that are the most difficult to germinate and they really like heat. I also have several different flower seeds that I've been trying to germinate for the last couple of years, and I've never gotten a single seed from these particular seed batches to germinate, so I thought, what the heck, I'll throw these in as well, because if I can't get them to germinate this year, I don't really know what I'm going to do with them. Now initially, this was pretty successful, and I did have a few seeds germinate, but since then it seems to have stopped completely. I'm not sure why that is. I actually kind of suspect that this has cooked some of the seeds and made them inert, so I'm not sure they're going to germinate at all at this point. Let's take a look at some of these chili seeds. These are the serranos that I collected from the plants that I grew last year. The seeds look really good and viable. There's always a chance that the variety that I got was sterile. There's always a chance that I didn't harvest the seeds at the right time. So far, these are showing no signs of life, but I'll leave them in a few more days and see what happens. This is a Pasilla Bajío pepper seed that I found to have sprouted. Now that root doesn't look very healthy. It's kind of brown, a little sad looking, but I'm going to try and plant it anyway and see what happens. I've found that a pencil is one of the most useful tools in anything from seed starting to transplanting out seedlings. It's really kind of a cool tool, and it just makes it easier to make tiny little holes in the soil without getting your fingernails all dirty. So what I'm going to do here is take this little seed and just place it root side down into the soil, not too deep. And this is a good compost mix that I've used in the past. And just going to give it a little press and then cover it with some soil. This soil was pre-moistened before I put it in this pot, but I'm going to go ahead and give it a little extra drink anyway, just in case. Small seedlings like to be kept fairly moist, but we don't want them to rot. These are some guajillo pepper seeds that I purchased online, and as you can see, we've got a sprout. That is such a good sign. So I'm going to plant this guy. This is a pot I had sitting outside, and it looks like I have a little stowaway from the garden. This is a juvenile ladybug. They're kind of a spiky little alligator-y looking creature. This one is mostly black, but they're often red and black. So if you see these in the garden, please just let them be. Don't kill them. They're not a pest. They are your friend. And here's that healthy looking guajillo seed with a little root coming out of it. So I'm going to, again, make a shallow hole with my pencil. Grab the seed if I can. Sometimes it is hard to handle these things when they're really small. I've considered using tweezers, but I want to be able to make sure I can feel how much force I'm putting on the seed itself. I don't want to pinch it really hard and damage it. So I'm just going to shallowly kind of guide that in with the pencil so that the root is more or less pointed downwards. It'll find its way. And then just lightly cover it with some of this good compost. I really hope this method works for me, at least for future reference. It is getting a little late to start the peppers anyway, so if none of these germinate or if they get cooked or whatever, I'll just throw them in the compost and see what happens. Funnily enough, I'm having fantastic success with scattering seeds. This is the Burpee Sow-A-Smile mix. It was scattered a full month before the recommended sowing time, and as you can see, these are coming up just fine. And these were actually ones that were collected from the flowers I grew last year rather than the original seed mix. I also have plenty of volunteers in the garden, like tomatoes and squash. This is what I've decided to call my Hail Mary pot. Now I've taken all of those seeds that I had trouble either germinating or getting the seedlings to survive, and since I've had sort of good luck with just seed scattering and volunteers coming up, I thought, what the heck, I'll throw them all in one pot, cover with a little bit of compost, and see what happens. I did soak them for 24 hours before I placed them here. Hopefully we'll get some growth. Let's take a look inside the greenhouse. This was about a week ago in mid-April, and you can see there is not much going on in here. I do have some tomatoes. I actually had 100% germination rate with those, and they've done very well. Down here I have some marigolds, a few more tomatoes, some fennel there in the back. Under here I have a bunch of broccoli, kale, gailan. Now these I made the mistake of hardening off a little too hard, and you can see some of them are very wilty. I did this right after transplanting them too, so I forgot about them in the sun and they didn't do too well. Most of them are still standing up and doing well, but then you have ones like this poor little kale who's just a little bit traumatized. And sometimes you'll have one looking great and the one right next to it looking terrible. I'm not sure why that's the case, but I think just some plants are stronger than others. Down here I have a few more broccoli, kale, calabrese. One thing I'm really disappointed in is I lost 2 of the showy milkweed that I had germinated, and I'm really sad about that because it's best to grow those in a patch, so it's good to have several. I posted a picture of this clary sage the other day, and it was so healthy and wonderful, and then it just crumbled after it was transplanted and left in the sun too long. Sage is a desert plant, and I thought it could handle the sun. This marjoram is another problem child. I've actually had really good germination rates with the seed, but I've never had a seedling grow beyond this point. Here's an extremely healthy little kale, despite the little bit of sunburn around the edges of its leaves there. And here's another kale of the same type that just didn't make it. The sun was too much, and besides, kale is kind of a cold weather plant. Happy broccoli? Sad broccoli. Even some of my largest plants, like this one, another broccoli, is half the size of some of the other seedlings that I'm seeing from gardeners out in the community. So here's where we're at now. Here you can still see there's a lot of bare soil of things not germinating. I went ahead and purchased a few peppers because I knew mine were not going to be ready to go out into the garden in a couple of weeks. Most of the brassicas have recovered nicely from the sunburn. I did lose in total about 10 plants of different types, but they are growing a bit. I am supplementing with a liquid fertilizer made of worm castings and bat guano, but the plants still do look a little bit small to me. Most of them are hanging on. I have a couple iffy ones that may not make it. We'll just have to see. I'll update you on everything again in another garden tour in mid-May once I've planted, so please let me know if you have any tips or tricks that you'd like to share about seed starting. I look forward to your comments and your encouragement, and happy gardening!